And here we have a sort of an epilogue. Time has passed, the True Reportory has found its way back to the excellent lady, and the Virginia Company must weigh the evidence provided. More time passes as Sir Thomas Gates is sent for to return to England and testify to his own observations, some of which are already familiar, while others touch on further events which have transpired in the interim. With these facts now gathered, the company compiles its report. If you listen closely enough, you will hear a much different voice than we have heard in our first 4 chapters. Dare I say, an almost Shakespearean voice that speaks with a greater command of metaphor and poetic allusion. We may not know the name of the writer, but clearly Shakespeare recognized the potential in this material, as some of the exact language in this report found its way into The Tempest. The report of the company. The ground of all those miseries was the permissive providence of God, who in the forementioned violent storm separated the head from the body, all the vital powers of regiment being exiled with Sir Thomas Gates in those infortunate yet fortunate islands. The broken remainder of those supplies made a greater shipwreck in the continent of Virginia by the tempest of dissension. Every man, overvaluing his own worth, would be a commander. Every man underprizing another's value denied to be commanded. The next foundation of woes was a negligence, in which every man sharked for his present booty, but was altogether careless of their looming penury. A colony is denominated because they should be colony, the tillers of the earth and stewards of fertility. Our mutinous loiterers would not sow with providence, and therefore reaped the fruits of repentance. An incredible example of their idleness is reported by Sir Thomas Gates, who witnessed seeing some of them eat their fish raw, rather than going a stone's cast to fetch wood and dress it. Unto this idleness you may also add treasons, wrought by those unhallowed creatures that forsook the colony. Some 30 of the company were appointed a ship to trade for corn with the Indians, and having obtained a great quantity by trading, the most seditious of them conspired together to steal away the ship, and make a league amongst themselves to be pirates, with dreams of mountains of gold and happy robberies. Thus, at one instant, they subverted the cares of the colony, who, depending upon their return, stalled in their search for further provision. They created the Indians our implacable enemies by violence. They carried away the best ship and weakened our defenses by subtraction of their arms. These are that scum of men that, sailing in their piracy, finding themselves pinched with famine and penury after their wild roving upon the sea, when all their lawless hopes failed, some resolved to return to England, and conspired to discredit the land, and to insist their desertion proceeded from desperate necessity. They went so far as to scandalize our endeavor by reporting the tragical history of the man supposedly eating of his dead wife in Virginia. Some of them even reported that they saw this horrible action. But to clear all doubt, Sir Thomas Gates thus relateth the tragedy. There was one of the company who mortally hated his wife, and secretly killed her, then cut her in pieces, and hid her in divers parts of his house. When the woman was missing, with the man suspected, his house was searched, with parts of her mangled body discovered. To excuse this murder, he said, his wife died, and he hid her to satisfy his hunger, and fed daily upon her. His house was again searched, where they found a good quantity of meal, oatmeal, beans, and peas. He thereupon was arraigned, confessed the murder, and was burned for his horrible villainy. Now, shall the scandalous reports of those viperous pirates preponderate the testimonies of so worthy leaders? Shall their venomous tongues blast the reputation of the ancient and worthy Lord De La Warre? Unto these treasons you may add the maritor's covetousness, who embezzled the provisions and prevented our trade with the Indians, making matches in the night and forestalling our market in the day. In light of these accidents and misdeeds, the state of the colony began to decline, and Powhatan, as a greedy vulture observing and boiling with desire of revenge, invited Captain Ratcliffe and about 30 others to trade for corn, and under the color of fairest friendship, he brought them within the compass of his ambush, whereby they were cruelly murdered and massacred. Powhatan proceeded in the night to cut off some of our boats, drive away all the deer, destroy all our hogs, and laid secret ambushes in the woods. All in all, want of government, store of idleness, our expectations frustrated by the traitors, our markets spoiled by the mariners, our nets broken, the deer chased, our boats lost, our hogs killed, some of our men fled, some murdered, and most weakened and endangered by drinking of the brackish water of James Fort, a famine and sickness by all these means increased here at home. Above all, having neither ruler nor preacher, they neither feared God nor man, which provoked the wrath of the Lord of hosts and pulled down his judgments upon them. The Council of Virginia, finding the smallness of that return which they hoped should have defrayed the charge of a new supply, entered into a deep consultation, and propounded amongst themselves whether it were fit to enter into a new contribution, or to abandon the action. They resolved to send for Sir Thomas Gates to make a true relation of those things which were presently to be had, or hereafter hoped for, in Virginia. Sir Thomas Gates, with a solemn and sacred oath, replied that all things before reported by William Strachey were true, that the country yielded abundance of wood, as oak, wainscot, walnut, ash, cedar, and fir, of masts and excellent boards of 40, 50, and 60 length, and 3-foot breadth, with a single fir tree able to make the mainmast of the greatest ship in England. He avouched to an incredible variety of sweet woods, trees which in so warm a climate may cherish and feed millions of silkworms, and return us in a very short time as plenty of silk as from all of Italy. There are divers sorts of minerals, iron ore, lying upon the ground, which maketh as good iron as any in Europe. That the river swarmeth with all manner of sturgeon, the land aboundeth with vines, the woods do harbor exceeding store of beavers, foxes, and squirrels, all which are covered with precious furs, that the oranges which have been planted did prosper in the winter, which is an infallible argument that lemons, sugar canes, almonds, rice, and all other commodities may be supplied. That the corn yieldeth a great increase more than ours, and lastly, that it is one of the goodliest countries under the sun, intervened with 5 main rivers, and promising as rich entrails as any kingdom of the earth, to whom the sun is no nearer a neighbor. And so ends that tale that inspired The Tempest. Although the tale of the English abroad and the Native Americans that they found there is just barely getting started. But at least here, in this one precarious moment with the future of the Americas hanging in the balance, we may begin to see just how the exploits of England in the New World find some overlap with the brave New World as depicted in Shakespeare's The Tempest. If you enjoyed this, please hit like or subscribe. I post these explainers about Shakespeare and the theater on a regular basis, along with full performances of very fast interpretations of Shakespeare's plays at breakneckshakespeare.com. I also spend most of my time on the road, performing at theaters and schools, wherever I can find an audience. See you on the stage.